Hey guys, and welcome to another Sonically Sound video. Today we're going to look at how to mix drums. This video will show you a basic way to mix a kick drum. Just remember, music is a matter of opinion, so I'm not saying this is the only way to mix a kick drum, I'm just saying this is how I would do it, and hopefully this will help you get an idea of how to mix one. In this video I will be using Logic Pro 10 version 10.4.1. So if something doesn't look right to you at home, you may need to update your system. So you can see here that we have two different tracks labeled kick. One is called kick in and one is called kick out. That's because when recording kick drums, there are mics that go inside of the kick drum and ones that go outside of the kick drum. Recording with both a kick in and kick out microphone ensures that you have the best sound for your kick drum. If you have both kick in mics and kick out mics, I suggest you use both. You're better off recording both of them and then realizing you don't need one of them rather than record just one and then wish you had recorded the other one. In a more basic recording setup for a drum set, you probably wouldn't have a kick in mic, you'd just have a kick out. So if you're only interested in how to mix a kick out mic, then click the link here for the video so you can skip straight to that. So the first thing I'm going to be doing for this kick in mic is finding a section of the song where the kick is playing a lot. If I can find this sound, then I can loop the track constantly so that I can continue to hear how it's playing rather than playing through the song and then it go into an interlude where the kick maybe isn't playing and then there's a bit of silence. If I just loop it, then I can constantly hear the kick playing. So what I'll do is I'll find a part of the song where I think the kick is playing a lot. So that section seems quite good because it's got a few quiet hits but also some loud hits, so I have an idea of both sounds. Now that I've done that, you can see I've already soloed the kick in. Obviously you want to do that because otherwise you're going to hear everything else while you're trying to EQ the kick in, and at the moment we just need to solo in on the kick in and get the sound as good as it can on its own, and then we'll blend it in with everything else. Now that we've done that, we can start mixing the kick in. Now the first thing I do is use the compressor. Now you can see that there's this bar here that says gain reduction meter when I go over it. What you do is you click that and automatically the Logic compressor will open. If you don't know what a compressor is, then I have another video that explains compression quite well. So there'll be a link in the description if you want to go find that video before you start watching this one. Just remember that just because I compress and then EQ doesn't mean that that's the way to do it. It seems as though Logic has set it up so that you compress first and then EQ, but it's entirely up to you. Basically, setting the compressor first means that it will compress the original signal and then you EQ. If you want to do it the other way, all that means is you then EQ the original signal and then that gets compressed. I prefer to compress first because that means that I get the original signal as dynamically diverse as I want it to. So you'll see that there are a few compressors to choose from, which is what this is up here. If any of you have seen my compression video, you know that I like to use Studio FET. So we'll go to that and you can see the face of it changes. If you want to use a different one, by all means use that. This is just my taste, but feel free to experiment with the others. So the first thing I'll do is actually change from the meter to the graph. The main reason I do this is because this graph gives me a better visualization of what it is I'm compressing, and that helps me understand what I'm doing. So the first thing I'll do is hit play. Now you can see as the settings have been set up, that's what it's compressing. This graph is also helpful to show what it's reducing, what's going in and what's going out. So the first thing I probably want to do is set the threshold. So basically I want to find when the kick comes in and when I want to start compressing it. With a kick drum, you typically want to compress it quite hard. This doesn't mean over compressing it to the max, but this just means compressing it so it's actually coming down when it gets hit. This also means that when the quieter kicks are playing, they'll be level to the louder ones. Now you don't want to do that too much because obviously that does get rid of the dynamic range, but you might want to bring the level a bit closer. So what I'll do is I will hit play and find the threshold point that I want. So you can see I put it to minus 16 dB, and you saw as I was playing this bar here, it was working on it quite hard. This is also to do with the ratio that's set up. It's currently set to 2.1 to 1. This basically means that for every decibel it is louder than minus 16 dB, it will push it down by 2 dB. So if it's 1 dB louder, it will push it down by 2 decibels. If it's 2 dB louder, it will push it down by 4 dB. For a kick drum, I would probably want a much harsher compression. 2.1 is pretty soft, and I'd rarely use that on anything, maybe a vocal. So I'm going to bring it up, and when you do that, you'll notice that the little bit here will change. That's because I'm making it harsher. So once it goes over the threshold, it will be compressed more and the level will be getting squashed down. If I bring it all the way to the top, you can see it basically goes flat across. I don't want to do that because that will completely ruin the sound, but I probably will do something quite high, something like 5 or maybe 4. So once I hit play, you'll then see it's now getting compressed a lot more and the level is becoming more even. I might want to now change the threshold so that I can compress it more, but I don't want to do it too much. I don't want to ruin the sound. Because you can see when I did that there, one, it clipped, but because it clipped, it then started to sound really poppy and weird. So I don't really want to do that. So basically I just want to make sure that it's compressing it to a good level and it's compressing it hard, but not too hard. So I'm basically going to leave it there. I've left the makeup. That basically pushes up the entire level. I don't really want to change that. And I've left the attack and release alone, as that's pretty much the way I want it to be. The standard is fine. If you want to play around with it, go for it. So then I will close that. And so now we have compressed the sound, and you'll see when I play, that little purple keeps coming out, and that's showing that it's compressing and that it's working. So the next thing I want to do is EQ. So I tap the EQ box there, and the EQ shows up. So the EQ will help me enhance the sound that we want to hear from this kick in mic. If you haven't used EQ before or find anything I explain confusing, like using terms and stuff, I've made a video on the basics of EQ, so feel free to watch that first before diving into this so that it makes a lot more sense. So once I click that box, Logic's standard EQ came in. This is the one we'll be using as it works perfectly fine. So when I hit play, you'll notice all the sounds that we should be hearing, or all the frequencies that are playing, will show up on this EQ. A kick in mic is mostly meant to pick up the boom of the kick and the low end sound because it lives inside of the drum. The kick out will also capture some of that, but it will mainly capture the body, and blended together, it will sound really good. But at the moment we're focusing on the kick in. You'll notice as well that we can slightly hear the rest of the drums, and although that's annoying and you might want to get rid of that, I'd suggest not bothering EQing that out, because at the end of the day, all you're going to do is then play it alongside the rest of the drum kit. So this tiny sound playing here will be drowned out by the actual sound that you hear here. So there's no need to cut it out, and you're just wasting EQ parameters. So basically we now want to make this kick sound as kicky as possible. So I'm going to start EQing, and I'll explain what I do as I go. Basically we're kind of dealing with a rock band, rock style. So we probably want a big boom and a big sound, which is also why I compressed it quite heavily. So let's just have a look. Now I probably don't want to use the low cut here, because actually a lot of the sound that we want is in the low end, so there's no need to cut that out. I might use a high cut to get rid of that high end, but I'm probably just going to leave it alone. So the first thing I want to do is find the boom. So I'm going to bring this EQ filter in and just keep searching for the boom. So you can see there that I have boosted the very low end there. So the middle point there is 74 Hertz. Now, if you can't hear that, maybe you're playing out of a laptop speaker or something, but really that should be clearly and well heard. So that's the main sound we want to get from it. We really want the boom and the power to really push from it, because this is our low end of the frequency spectrum in terms of the band sound. You'll notice as well I've made it quite a wide Q. That's because I want to boost all the sounds around it because they're also as boomy. I don't want just one frequency sound. I want it all to come in. Next, I want to maybe try and capture the snap that you hear when the kick pedal hits the skin. See if it's captured some of that, because although we do want a low end, we also want it to be really defined. And so capturing that snap will really help that. So the main thing I'll do is make it a tighter Q as I'm trying to find the specific sound. So it looks like it may be around there. It's not entirely clear. That's mainly because it's a kick in mic. The kick out mic will probably capture that snap much more clearer, but we just want to get some of it. So you notice I'm only boosting it up by 1 dB. I just want to capture some of it, but not really all of it. The next thing I might want to do is there might be some frequencies that are ringing on the kick drum that I want to remove. So we'll have a look for those, see if we can find any, and then remove them if they are too loud or too clear in the mix. So I'm making a small cue once again to find it. So you can hear there it is playing a dong dong. And basically, although I can hear that, that is because I'm boosting it up by 21 dB. So it's probably not that bad when I put it there. Same with the 1K. I may want to get rid of some of the drone, like that. But equally, that might be part of the sound that I want. I'm just going to leave it like that. So I'm cutting down by -4. Basically what it means is it's getting rid of that ooh sound, but still got the real big thud. But you can see the sound it's made. It's just cut out that little bit. It's not affecting the overall sound too heavily. Next, I would then look to EQ something on the high end, but like I said, we're working with a kick drum here, so there's no high sound, and it's even inside of the kick drum, so we're really not capturing that much high end from anything, and we don't want to boost it on this channel anyway, so we'll leave it at that. But basically, we've got a nice bass sound there, a bit of a snap, and just got rid of a bit of a drone. Okay, now that that's done, there are two other go-to things that I tend to do for each instrument on a channel, and that is panning and using send buses for reverb. As this is a kick drum, we won't be using panning or reverb. The reason for that is it's just general practice. You don't do that. That's because low frequencies are omnidirectional bass frequencies, so they play in all directions, whereas high frequencies are much more directional. So if a guitar's standing to the left of the stage, it's going to be more clear that it's coming from there. Whereas a bass guitar or a bass drum is not going to be very clear because it's just a bass sound. It's going to be playing across the field. So we won't be panning it. And then for reverb, there will be no reverb on this because it's a kick sound, and you typically want to only put reverb on things that are mid to high range, because a low frequency sound on a reverb probably won't be incredibly clear, and if you were to put it on and it is clear, you're probably just hearing the higher range of that sound, the higher frequencies from that sound. So we're not going to do those. So now that that's taken care of, we've actually done the kick in mic. All we needed to do was compress and EQ. The next step is to then EQ the kick out mic, and then we'll blend it together. I spent quite a lot of time on this kick in video, so I think I'm going to show you how to mix the kick out separately on a separate video, and then in that same video we'll also talk about how to mix both kick sounds together to get a really nice, strong, prominent sound. So there you go, that's how I would mix a kick-in mic. Like I said before, this is my opinion, this is how I do it. Don't think this is the only way to do it. I'm just showing you the basics so that you can get an idea of what maybe you want to do. Feel free to experiment, that's how music is made, by people experimenting. So don't just take my word for it. So there you go, that's how you mix a kick-in mic. I hope you liked this video. If you did, be sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. If there's something you would like me to cover in another video, or you have a question about this video, put it in the comments section below. Make sure to check out my other how to mix videos as well. This is Sonically Sound. Have fun mixing.